Yeah,
Okay, this is it.
we're good.
Let's roll.
I now call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Notice to the public of the time, date, place, and agenda of the meeting given by publishing a legal notice in the February 27th, 2026 Aiken Standard. Notice to contiguous property owners were mailed and public notice signs were posted on the properties where action by the board was requested on or before February 27th, 2026. All notices of the meeting were sent on or by March 20th, 2026 for posting on the city webpage and to the city clerk for posting on the municipal building notice board at least 24 hours before the meeting. Agenda sheets were mailed or emailed to interested parties. Please note, it is unlawful for any person giving testimony to this board to knowingly provide false information according to Section 22-9 of the Aiken Municipal Code. Each infraction is a separate offense with a penalty of up to 30 days in jail and/or a $1,092.50 fine. Some guidelines for the meeting. These meetings are public forums in which many opinions are expressed, and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, disciplined, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is required. During public hearings, all questions and statements from the public shall be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and the chair will recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address the Board of Zoning Appeals, speakers should limit their comments to the subject being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from the board members are posed to the speaker. Moving on to the agenda items, we have the approval of the minutes. To the board, you've received copies of the regular minutes from February 24th, 2026. Are there any corrections or additions? We did note prior to the meeting beginning, there was a correction to the draft on page 3. The motion regarding Board Member Doherty moving and Member Brecht seconding the following motion. The application number was incorrectly printed. The last digit is 5. It should be 4. And we understand that that has been corrected and will be reflected in the next edition of the meetings.
Yes, that correction has been noted.
Hearing no other corrections or additions, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
The minutes have been properly motioned and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the said motion, raise their right hand. It's unanimous. Just a point of order, I think, Bud, you were absent.
I was.
Okay, so as a correction, it's 4 and 1 absent vote. Correct?
I'll abstain or
Okay.
because of my absence.
Thank you. Moving on to old business, the final orders are being circulated now. I think you were absent, but Thomas has to sign. Yeah.
Yep.
So they are currently being circulated for signature.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pass that down. Thank you. Moving on to new business. I call to your attention the application, I'm sorry.
Max Planky was going to update us on our training schedule.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do not have an update at this time.
I'm sorry?
Unfortunately, I do not have an update at this time.
Okay. Next month, next meeting?
I'll try to get that information as soon as I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to new business, I call your attention to application 2693005. This is a variance request from Ricardo and Catherine Bennett to permit a detached garage on property located at 1212 Hunt Cliff Trace, zoned residential single-family RS10 with TPN number 089-20-12-001. To the city, has this been properly posted?
Yes, it has.
Were there any inquiries that you wish to share with the board?
The planning department did not receive any comments or inquiries regarding the request.
Thank you. Please proceed with your presentation.
The subject property, 1212 Huntcliffe Trace, is an 11-acre lot located in the Huntcliffe neighborhood off Richardson Lake Road in the south of the city. The property is currently zoned residential single-family RS10 and developed. The request is for variance to City of Aiken zoning ordinance section 3.4.2.e to permit a detached garage, approximately 1,250 square feet in area. Pursuant to section 3.4.2.e of the zoning ordinance, all accessory buildings on a lot zoned RS10 may not exceed 50% of the heated gross floor area of the principal building. Based on the size of the primary residence on the property, compliance with the zoning ordinance would require all accessory structures not exceed 2,970 square feet in area. According to county records, the total square footage of all accessory structures currently on the lot is approximately 5,500 square feet. Because of the equestrian nature of the property, which predates the current regulations of the zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance does not account for lot size when determining the limit of cumulative accessory square footage. In addition, lots specifically zoned for horses, they are typically exempt from floor area limitation for accessory structures. The lot was rezoned to RS10 at the time the current zoning ordinance was adopted in 1999. It was formerly zoned R1A when it was incorporated in 1989. That previous zoning designation conditionally permitted horses by right, unlike the current zoning designation. Information provided by the applicant about the request, as well as an approximate site plan, are contained in Exhibit A and B of your agenda packet. This is an illustration of the elevation of the garage relative to the front of the home provided by the applicant. Again, we have a sort of overhead site plan in relation to the home on the site. And I believe they're noting it's approximately 573 feet from the road itself to the garage. So it is quite a large lot, and there's significant distance between the road and the rest of the property. Here's an overhead view. Again, just an illustration of where they're proposing the garage be located on the site. This is the primary home here. As you can see, there's numerous accessory structures currently because of the equestrian nature of the property. There have been no significant changes to the primary structure that would have increased or decreased overall square footage to permit the accessory structures in question by right. Accessory structure in question by right. The applicant would have to increase the heated square footage of the primary structure by approximately 7,560 square feet to permit the additional accessory structure of the proposed size by right, or remove approximately 3,780 square feet from other accessory structures, whether in some combination or removing buildings in whole. As depicted on the attached zoning map found in Exhibit C of your agenda packet, some variation does exist regarding the development in the immediate area. However, apart from the adjoining property to the west, most lots in the area generally consist of 1970s era single-family homes, around 2,000 square feet, on lots deeper than they are wide. So most of these other, not only are they unincorporated, but most of them are considerably smaller, with considerably smaller houses. And there's not a ton of, as far as I could tell, other properties that have similar equestrian use in the immediate area. Exhibit D in your agenda packet contains photographs of the property taken by staff depicting the existing conditions of the property. This is just a photo of our notice there. This is taken from the roadway looking towards the home. Here you can see additional accessory structures, barns basically for the horses. The garage would go somewhere back in here, but just to illustrate the sort of the distance from the roadway that the primary structure is and where the proposed garage will be, as well as just the size of the property itself. Again, it's in about 11 acres. This is the property to the, I guess, east. Looks like it's currently under construction. Slightly smaller home, smaller lot. This is to the west. I believe there's also been a building permit issued for this property as well, but I'm not sure how much construction has occurred. Wasn't able to see it from this point, this place in the roadway. But this property is inside city limits as well. The neighbor to the kind of northwest or west. This is across the street, basically right in front of the driveway of the subject property. So I believe there is a home kind of over here, but it's mostly wooded. Again, there's not a whole lot of property, or excuse me, structures that are close to the subject property. In question. The planning staff's evaluation of the request, as well as the applicant's response to the required 6 variance criteria, can be found starting at page 2 of the agenda packet. This concludes staff's presentation. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Thank you, Max. Do we have any questions for the city from the board?
I have two. Max, if the proposed structure was attached to the house and heated, would it then become part of the house, negating this need?
Yeah, there was some discussion about that. It wouldn't necessarily need to be heated for it to be attached, but there are certain architectural requirements that were not possible at this time. Namely, it has to be sort of a covered portion, and it has to have some sort of supports, whether that's posts or a wall connecting it. And that was not a viable option at this time for the applicant, but they may be able.
It seems fairly close to the main house, and if it's just a walkway, a covered walkway, that would be enough to attach it to the house.
Yeah, I believe it's about 13 feet. But yeah, I think there was some discussion about that. But again, I think it was a little bit more difficult than it would appear based on the permitting requirements for that. But the applicant may be able to explain that a little bit more. But yeah, strictly speaking, it could be attached. But yeah, I mean, it's about 13 feet. So I think that might have played a part in it. But yeah, there was some, there's certain design elements that are required for us to consider it attached. And that was, I think, difficult.
Okay. My other question is just please clarify the difference between an RS10 and an RS15, because an 11-acre lot in an RS10 zone doesn't seem, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, so typically the number that follows that RS distinction is the minimum lot size. So that would be 10,000 square feet minimum. There isn't necessarily a maximum, but yeah, I would say it's atypical for that particular zoning district. Now, the lots, if I go back here real quick, these are all also zoned RS10. I believe they were all R1A prior to the adoption of the current zoning ordinance. So there were certain slight differences there, including, you could basically have horses on a lot zone R1A as long as they met certain conditions, similar to our horse properties now. But yeah, for whatever reason, when they switched over to the new zoning ordinance, these were given an RS10 designation. I suspect it's possible that they were to be developed into smaller lots at a certain point. This area was incorporated in 1989, so it's possible they had some plan for a subdivision in there. But yeah,
Okay.
it is atypical for an RS10 to be that large.
Board Member Doherty.
Just trying to get my math straight here. So you have the family dwelling at 5,940 feet.
Yeah, that's per county records. Yeah.
Okay. So the illustration that I see here of 127 by 34, that's whose math there?
You're talking about the this
That
one
one.
here. Yeah, that was provided by the applicant.
Okay.
Typically go off county records. I believe it is a 2-story house, though.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Also, is there a inventory of what the accessory structures are and their footage that you arrived at this approximate 5,500 square
Yep,
feet?
that's also per county records. Typically, they're relatively accurate because they're assessed for taxation purposes, I believe. But yeah, you can kind of see on this picture here. It's a little hard to see because of how zoomed out it is, but these buildings here would all be kind of
So
counted towards
we don't
that.
know what these structures are, what their purpose is, and what their individual footages are?
Well, we basically go off county records. I believe most of them, per the county property card, are horse-related barns and like run-in sheds and that kind of stuff. The applicant may be able to clarify some of them, maybe like equipment storage, but yeah, it's primarily, to my understanding, for equestrian purposes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's shown in yellow, this is what's shown in yellow, is city incorporated?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, and then the rest is in the county. So he's
Correct.
we got the city on one side of his lot, the county on the other side of his lot.
Yeah.
The way I read this, is that correct?
Yes, that appears to be the case.
Okay, when did you say this area was incorporated? 1989?
Yeah, according to the records, I found city council records online, it appears that some previous owner, whether they own both lots, or some combination thereof, basically requested incorporation approximately 1989.
Would the structures, would you know that the structures date about that time too, that all that was done in the, prior to incorporation?
I believe the home was built in about 1970, so yeah, probably close to 20 years before. Again, that's per county records, but generally they're pretty accurate. But yeah, most of the buildings, I guess, apart from the neighboring lot, they're building a new home here, and I believe there's a new home going over here somewhere too. But most of these, including this one here, were primarily built in the 70s.
Okay. And there's no record of when these other outbuildings were constructed?
Not that we have on file. Yeah.
Okay.
I assume that they probably predate it as well, at least the current zoning ordinance, which was adopted in 2000. Again, it was a horse property in the previous zoning designation, the R1A. They were allowed horses by right, essentially, as long as they met certain maintenance conditions, which we would see, more typically in our RSS or RSH districts. Basically, it has to do with, like keeping the feed, properly stored and removal of, any nuisances or whatever. So essentially it was, a permitted use on the property.
Sure.
And it's been that way ever since. It's just because it's RS10 now, there are kind of more restrictions than there were previously.
And I may be there in my research, just to clarify your question, as per the county records, I am somewhat familiar with the property prior to the hearing, just because it was on the market, obviously, with one of the associates that I work with. And all of the equestrian buildings, according to the county, were 1995 models. And then in 2000, they built a loafing shed. But again, as you stated, the county is probably estimating that based on, those are 5-year gaps. I'm assuming they were doing a tax assessment in those years. So that might give some context to your question.
Okay.
But I believe the prior owner, who was also an equestrian, he did keep horses on the property. And to the best of my knowledge, those were constructed, I think, with his ownership. So,
Okay.
but it was later.
Yeah.
So it was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that-
okay,
that-
after
that-
Yeah.
annexation or
Correct.
whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
But it pretty much sounds like it predates right before the zoning ordinance changed
Okay,
in 2000. Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you now. All right.
Any other questions for the city? I just had one myself. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just curious, just for my understanding, it seems a little odd that they did move it to the RS10, just because it is clearly, to me, as a former equestrian, an equestrian property. So I was just, when that happens, did I hear you correctly that you thought it perhaps was slated for single-family home development, and that would have merited that? Because it seemed like it should have stayed as an RSH or an RSS, which would have kept it what it is. Like, it is a horse property.
Yeah. I mean, that's an educated guess.
Okay.
But yeah, I really have no idea why it was zoned RS10.
Okay. I mean, speculatively, how it's grouped with the other larger parcel to the, I think would be the northwest, if I'm not
Yeah,
switched
there's-
around.
This
It-
is
Yeah, and that's all the same landowner. It almost looks like that was kind of the intention down the road. So, okay, that just gives me some clarity of context.
So last question for the city, from me anyway. Is this all we've got on the proposed garage, that vague sketch there?
Yeah, that was provided by the applicant. I believe they're working with a third party company. But yeah, this was just sort of their kind of rough plan. I think the dimensions are basically consistent, and it's going to look something similar to this. But yeah, that's what we have currently.
And I'll ask the applicant, but your assumption is that's a single floor, single story garage?
I believe that's the case. Yeah. You kind of see here the 2-story home.
Yeah.
Next to that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the city? Hearing none, the applicant is invited, or the representative, you're welcome to make your presentation. If you can approach the podium and read yourself into the minutes, please, with your name and address.
Okay, hi. I'm Ricardo Bennett. I'm the current owner at 1212 Huntcliffe Trace.
Sorry, just had to ask you one question before
Sure,
you make your
sure,
presentation.
absolutely.
Did you receive an application package from the city
For
this? You
yes,
did rec-
yes,
okay,
I did.
Great.
Yes, and I forwarded it to the builders,
Perfect. Yeah.
and they did the engineering.
Okay. And you're welcome to comment, embellish the presentation, or respond both to questions to and from the board. So
Okay,
thank you.
yeah, no problem. So basically, we just moved here about a year and a half ago, roughly. And we were fine with our vehicles and tractors sitting outside. But after Helene and the damage we sustained, we're like, we need a garage. That's the bottom line. So that's why we're asking to find out if we could get a garage built. Everything in a nutshell. Okay.
Did you want to speak a little bit to the construction of the garage and how you envision it?
Well, the construction of the garage is just a single level, 4 bays. That is just to accommodate the vehicles that we have. We wanted low profile, not to overshadow the house. We also have it where it's situated on an existing platform that was already there. So we're not taking away from the green space. We're not altering the drainage or anything else of the property. The bottom line is that Most modern houses have garages. This house does not have a garage. We need a garage. And I told my wife I would never live in a house without a garage. But she fell in love with the property, and hence here we are.
Understood.
Do you have any questions from me?
Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, thank you for allowing me in the gate and onto
Oh,
the
of course.
property.
Sorry you
Appreciate
got locked in.
Right, appreciate that. The concrete pad that you pointed out.
Yes.
And I looked at it, I didn't pull a tape or anything like
Okay.
that, but I assume that it's about the same size as what, of the garage you proposed.
Correct.
And so you're gonna use it as the existing platform,
Yes.
build on top of that, is that
Correct.
right?
There was already a parking area there, but it was starting to crack and break down, so we just had it recovered with a little bit of concrete.
Okay, but that'll be the size of the
Yes,
garage?
that's
What I
correct.
saw there,
Yes.
okay,
Single level.
okay.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir.
Did you put any thought or consideration into attaching the garage to the house and maybe negotiating an exemption from this?
Yes, actually, I did give some altered plans, modified plans, and at the time, that would have taken longer than to go ahead and get the variance at that point. Plus, with the way the structure is set up on the one side facing the garage, there's a walkway. The only thing we could do is maybe go with a breezeway, and that would have to be, it would have to be a solid structure. It can't be an arbor unit, apparently. And the solid structure, there would be a drainage issue because on the side of the house, there is a drop down, that there's an access door that actually goes under the house. So my concern is if you have a drainage issue, that's gonna fill up full of water. And I don't want water under that house.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Is it a metal? Is it a metal garage building?
It's a, yes, it's steel frame.
Steel
with with steel panel, correct.
Okay.
Roller doors.
Do you plan on having any sort of like farm equipment? Are you going to be keeping livestock on the property?
Well, we have horses now. I will probably use one of those bays for the big tractor. Yeah. The rest of it's for cars.
The other existing structures on the property, what
Yes.
are they currently used for?
Equestrian stuff. There's 2 barns and there's 2 run-ins.
Okay.
Oh, also for storage, hay, grain,
Yeah.
Okay.
and every accessory for every tractor.
Do you have a count of how many accessory buildings are on there?
Do I have a count?
Yeah.
Yes, you mean of the square footage? No.
No, just of
Oh, yeah, there's 2 barn structures and there's 2 run-ins. And
two,
that's-
2 run-ins and 2 barn structures?
Yeah,
That's the 5,500 feet that's current?
That's per county records, so some of them may have come down since they went out and last assessed it. So it may be smaller than that. That's the max number that was calculated. So it's a little hard to see here, but this one, I'm not sure if this is still standing or not.
oh, I'm sorry, yep. That is a work shed. It's where I store the little lawnmower. Sorry about that, forgot about that.
But yeah,
And it's the well house, so it's kind of a combination.
basically whatever was assessed on the county website, I added all that up, and that totaled approximately 5,500 square feet.
Do you know what's going on next door to your property with the construction there?
Actually, I came and spoke to Max about that because I wasn't sure what was going on, but apparently, the property next door and all that green property was all part of the same lot originally. And the original owners gave that large portion to a conservancy. And apparently the conservancy sold it for $750,000 to a developer. So the developer had proposed on the 5 acres on the left side of the property, they were going to do apartments or higher density housing. And now, I guess, the council reduced it to a single-family home. And then the other structures in the back that he's going to build will be one house per 15 acres.
So what's being constructed next door to you to the right of your property is a single-family house? Is that what's going up?
Correct. That's a single-family home.
Okay. And you have not spoken or talked to that prospective person, or is that just a development property?
I spoke to both. The developer is on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is a young lady that her parents are going to move in with her.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the board to the applicant?
Yeah, I got one quick question, not this, back to Max. Since this is out, he doesn't have to go to design review or anything like that, does he? Is this the final, if this is the final step?
It's well outside of our historic districts.
Okay, so once we take the action that he's done, is that
Yeah, it
right?
would still need to get a building permit.
Well,
but
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There would be no other planning-related approvals.
Okay, in that building permitting process, they'll go through what he has in mind for the garage and.
Yeah, we notified them of all that.
Okay,
And for clarity, you are working with a contractor on
Yes.
this? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
They're out of North Carolina.
Great.
Don't hold that against
No. Thank you. If you have anything else to add,
I absolutely do not.
excellent. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you.
Do we have any others to speak to the variance request? No. Seeing and hearing none, the board may entertain a motion so we can enter a period of discussion.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve application number 26-93005. That would be a variance to section 3.4.2.e of the zoning ordinance to permit a detached garage approximately 1,250 square feet in area on property zone residential family RS10 and generally located at 1212 Hunt Trace, tax parcel number 089-20-12-001, that the location and dimensions of the structure be consistent with the submitted site plan. The total area of all accessory buildings on the property not exceed 114% of the heated gross floor area of the principal building. All of the applicable requirements of section 3.4.2 and section 4.2.1 regarding accessory structures are met, that the variance run with the land, and the final order shall be recorded in the Aiken County ROD office.
Thank you, Bud. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the variance request. Do we have any discussion?
So my feeling is that this request certainly meets a lot of the variance requirements that we would look for in terms of size and uniqueness of the property, neighboring property. I think that the chair brought up a good point. Not sure why this house with 12 acres got roped into a RS10 zoning deal after it had clearly been established as a horse property prior to that. I wish I'd heard a little more on the ability to connect the garage. Seems like the applicant at least looked into that. For expedience sake, though, if I understood the response, it was quicker just to try to get the variance ordinance passed, which is not my preferred methodology here. He did mention there were some potential water or flooding issues to try to connect, but I guess going forward, I'd like to see that fleshed out better. If the other conditions were more marginally met, I might hold that against this applicant this time, but I think the variance criteria have been met, so I'm probably a yes vote on this.
Thank you, Board Member Doherty. Any others to speak to the motion?
This doesn't necessarily apply to the motion, but as an aside, based on what, Madam Chairman, you've brought up, I would ask the city to look at this issue if it's a horse property and zone prior to whatever it is, 2000, whatever. If it's a horse property, it continues to be a horse property. Why is it RS10? So maybe this can be addressed too when we look at the revamping of zoning ordinances. But just one little issue that it could have maybe, had it been properly, I'm not saying it's not properly zoned, it just is unusual that it now carries this designation. But that's an aside from.
One more aside while we're throwing asides. To the city, next time it was less important on this particular application because of a lot of the other things going on. But I think a breakdown of the accessory buildings and how you're getting your square footage would have been helpful. If this were a closer call and I at least had a menu of what was already there, some of that could have been addressed with the applicant in terms of, is that really needed? You could take 300 or 500 square feet off the deal, conversations around that could have been helpful.
Yeah, moving forward, I can
Yeah.
include the Q Public
Okay.
report from the
Yeah,
county.
that'd be great. Thanks.
And to that point too, that, running sheds, what I picture as a running shed is that really should that be counted against the applicant's calculation here.
I
And
mean,
so
yeah,
just a
Yeah.
point. So
And I think there's a real broad margin. I've seen run-in sheds that I would live in, and I've seen run-in sheds that are literally just a lean-to. So to your point, it is critical for really the aesthetic of the property as a whole, because people build to different standards, and I think that's an important note that could be taken into consideration of what is actual square footage that's being eaten up by something that is literally a lean-to.
right.
Versus, I've seen run-in sheds on properties where they're almost air conditioned. Which just is a very loose tie-in to Board Member Doherty's point about tying in to the building. The only comment I would make on that, I do agree, it's always nice to sort of mitigate that, but the burden of cost, I think, possibly to the owner, because that could convert, and you may speak to this as a GC and an expert in the field, that's getting into more of a stick-built, possibly structure versus tying in a possible portable metal building, and then there could be French drains if you've got drainage issues, and I would be worried about putting a burden of cost if we said, it had to be tied in. I think in this case, it literally is an equestrian property. It always has been, it will continue to be. Which leads to my final question, and possibly to the city, and maybe of note to the owners, restrictions for the future. If the highest and best use for this property is equestrian, as it has been, should they want to make any modifications to the property? Are they restricted? So if they tore down one of the run-in sheds and needed something a little more substantial or larger, do they have to represent to us? Could we recommend that they possibly look into having it properly zoned? so that it isn't constantly coming back trying to upgrade or improve the property?
Yeah, there was some discussion about that with the planning director. I think part of the issue was there were no other properties zoned RSS or RSH in the immediate area.
So it would be considered spot zoning?
Well, not necessarily, but I think there is a mechanism by which we can potentially correct the zoning moving forward. So, but yeah, strictly speaking, as far as, you know, increasing that square footage beyond the 114% approximate based on my math, yeah, that would probably be another discussion for coming back through here, unless it went through a rezoning process where, as with most other properties zoned for horses, they're exempt from that 50% threshold.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another question I do have, Max, maybe you can answer this. What is the criteria for an accessory building? Like, is there a defined, does it have to have a roof, four walls,
Typically,
slab,
yeah,
floor?
it's any sort of roof structure, so it doesn't necessarily need walls. You know, it can be supported by, you know, like a pole barn or something like that, for example, I guess. But yeah, typically, and it kind of goes, we work with, I guess, in some of the parameters from building code as well, but yeah, typically it's under roofed structure. So like a fence isn't an accessory structure, but a garden shed or a, you know, what do they call it, greenhouse,
Yeah. Okay.
detached garages, anything basically with sort of like a roof over it is typically considered an accessory structure.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the said motion, raise their right hand. It's unanimous. The chair solicits a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Do we have to vote on that? No. We're adjourned.